Welcome to the Real Estate Marketing Podcast. My name is Jerome Lewis. I'm your host for today. The Real Estate Marketing Podcast is a podcast where we talk marketing, tech, business, and leadership. We talk these things for real estate agents, real estate investors, and real estate entrepreneurs. The Real Estate Marketing Podcast is a podcast that has two purposes. Purpose number one, to educate and inform our audience of listeners. Purpose number two, Malcolm, to spotlight you, your business, your service, or your product in a way that provides value to you, including market exposure and content creation. With that, we have a very special guest, Malcolm Turner. Malcolm Turner is an accomplished business executive. In 2007, he founded Castle Commercial Capital LLC, a national commercial mortgage banker and brokerage based in Southfield, Michigan. While the firm specializes exclusively in commercial lending, Malcolm has over 25 years of experience in the financial services industry. As a seasoned expert in commercial mortgages, he has financed millions of dollars for investors. From navigating the complex world of commercial mortgages to unlocking funding for entrepreneurial ventures, he has the insights and expertise to guide your listeners towards success. Let's connect and share valuable tips, real life stories, and actionable advice that will empower the audience to make informed decisions and achieve their real estate goals. Get ready to stand out with an episode featuring a mortgage lender and broker who truly understands the ins and outs of the lending landscape. Together, let's educate, inspire, and transform lives. Malcolm, welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Absolutely. So, Malcolm, we read that excellent bio from you, that professional bio, but I always like to tell our guests, tell us in your own words, how you got to where you got to. Take us on a journey and what led you to where you are today.
Well, I co-founded Castle Commercial Capital 16 years ago, and my partner was my pastor, and him and I was doing residential mortgage lending. And one of the managers I had a conflict with because I put a guy in an $80,000 fixed rate FHA mortgage and not one of those $300,000 option arms, that had all those moving parts. And he was like, "Why'd you do that?" I'm like, "Well, it was the best thing for the client. It was in his best interest. He was trying to buy a modest home of only $100,000. That's about what he could afford. He's not an entrepreneur. He's not married. So, and if that mortgage moves, he's screwed, and the guy's like, "Well, don't you want to make money?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I want to make money, but shouldn't we do the right thing for our client? I mean, that's what we're supposed to do, right?" Oh, there you go, Malcolm. Talk about that do the right thing stuff again. And I'm like, "What?" And so I was talking to my pastor about why is doing the right thing a badge of dishonor? It should be a badge of honor. I want to make money, but, and obviously we know what happened a few short years later when all of those mortgages blew up, and I never sold one. So, and my pastor said, "Well, Malcolm, if you were going to do a mortgage company, how would you do it?" Like, one, I'd do commercial. And it's about the math. It's about making money. It's not about how pretty the yard is or how nice the kitchen is. It's math. And so when, to set up an office, you got to do this and do this and do this and do this. And he's like, "Oh, that's cool. All right, great. Let's do it." And I was like, "Well, wait a minute. I thought we were just talking hypothetical, And he was like, "Well, no, I love you like a brother. And, I trust no one with money more than you. And so we should do it." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then like that, we set up Castle Commercial Capital, and we've been doing loans ever since. We're doing originally brokerage exclusively. And then in 2019, we became a lender. And so since then, we do deals, we do loans in-house. And if something doesn't fit what we call our credit box, then I take my lender hat off and I put my broker hat on, and then I outsource the funding of their deal, So we still get them funded, Sometimes the answer isn't no, it's just not us. But here I know someone else who can do it for you, and I'll write herd over it to make sure it gets done. Our key value point, our secret sauce, if you would, is certainty of execution. In the world of the commoditized dollar, there's always somebody willing to do a deal cheaper than you. But my thing is we close, and so there may be folks that may have a bigger organization than us. They may have, um, more degrees in the wall, right? But they can't outwork us, and we'll close no matter what, you know. And if something won't close, I'll tell the client up front. I'm not going to make promises that we can't keep or won't be kept. I'll tell them up front, hey, this is what's going on. This is why it can't happen.
Okay, thank you. So, one of the things that you mentioned, and we hear a lot, is like commercial. Like, I want the commercial because it's numbers, and I don't want residential. Could you like go deeper on why you've chosen commercial versus residential? Because a lot of people have a misunderstanding that it's easier to do residential or it's easier to do commercial. So we want to hear from your perspective. There's no right or wrong answer, right? But I want to hear from you, like why commercial versus residential, and just some of your insights on that.
Well, I think commercial, you have a little bit more control in the way of your own destiny, right?
Okay.
When you buy a residential investment, and then let me speak totally as an investor,
Mhm.
okay, purely investor perspective. A residential home in a neighborhood, I can, fix it, flip it, and all that stuff, but I'm still captive to the neighborhood.
Mhm.
So if I'm on a $200,000 block, that house, no matter what I do to it, it's not going to get appraised for $300,000 because I'm in a $200,000 neighborhood, right? Whereas in commercial, the more I add value in terms of increasing the income, maybe decreasing the expenses, at the end of the day, increasing the net operating income by doing one or both of those two things, the more value I'm going to add to that building. And so if I have a net operating income of $100,000 a year and I can get that to $200,000 a year, I double the value of the building. It doesn't matter what the building across the street sold for. You know, it matters about that net operating income, you know. And so that's where you again, you can have an opportunity to come in, and this is where my book comes in, Financing the Unbankable Deal. We show people how to do deals that the banks won't touch. And if the bank won't touch it, it's not a cherry deal. There's going to be some challenge with it, right? But it can still get done and it's going to be able to get purchased at a lower price. So when you think about the universe of deals, there's like this many deals that are out there to get done.
Mhm.
But typically the bank and most investors are fighting over this bit of marketplace. And so when they're fighting over this much of, and these are all the cherry deals with great occupancy, great income, great location, great management, you know, you're not going to buy that deal at a discount.
Got it.
You're gonna pay premium, right? But there's a universe of this many more deals out there that could be done, but maybe they have challenges, right? And maybe the occupancy is low, maybe there's a lot of month-to-month tenants, maybe there's a situation where the cash flow isn't the greatest because they're charging under market rents. So let's say you have a multifamily and the market rent is $1,000 a month, and these guys only charging 700. Okay, and the occupancy is only 60%. Okay, those two factors alone are going to make that an unbankable deal. Okay, because it's not a stabilized property. Well, we can help people still finance those deals, which is again the point of our book. And when you finance those deals, now you come in, you've increased the income just by getting the market rents, getting the rents up to market, up to that $1,000 a month, right? And then you increase the income again because you got occupancy at $1,000 a month, not at 60% occupancy, but
Mhm.
at 95% occupancy. And if you made certain improvements in the property, you may move the property up from a class C property to a class B property,
Okay.
or a D to a B. And when you move it by class, now the measure of value that net operating income is calculated against is lower, right?
Okay.
And I say
So,
lower, the measure is lower. So the lower the cap rate, and this is in
okay.
commercial, the lower the cap rate, the more valuable the property.
Got it.
Okay.
So
So
tell us what a class is. When you say classes, B class, C class, D class, help us understand what that is. And something else that you mentioned that I want is like NOI. So can you help us understand those terms? So first,
sure,
like what's a class, and then tell us what NOI is, not net
sure.
operating.
Sure. Class is going to be the type of property that it is and
Okay.
how nice it is. So when you think about there's class A, B, C, and D, right?
Mhm.
Class A properties are like brand new properties. They're priced at the top of the market. They have all the amenities, you know, um, they have great management. They're in great locations. Those are going to typically be like your class A. You think like a penthouse in Trump Tower, right? That's going to be like a class A property. Okay. Class B are going to be nice properties, but they're not like the nicest, right? So you think about like hotels, right? You've got um uh the Hiltons, and then you got the Ramada, right?
Mhm.
Right. Class C is probably going to be more like the Ramada. It's going to be okay. It's going to be a decent place to live, right? But it's not going to be the nicest place that you can get. But therefore, also the rent is not going to be the highest rent in the marketplace. Okay. So now let's go to your thing of NOI. NOI is when you're looking at net operating income. Okay. So when I take my gross rents minus my expenses, what's left is my NOI. Okay. And so that net operating, so if I've got, let's say for simple math, if I've got 100 units at $1,000, right? That's 100,000 a month gross, right? Let's say my expenses, I'm running a 50% expense ratio for easy math. That's now $50,000 of expenses out of that 100. So my NOI is going to be 50,000 a month, right? That's going to be 600,000 a year, right? Now, let's look at what's the value of that property. This is where the class comes in and the cap rates that go with it, right? So let's say for simple argument, and I'm going to have to take my calculator out for a second to do this math. If I've got that 600,000 of NOI and I divide that by um, 0.01, okay,
Mhm.
which will be like a 10% cap, okay, that's $60 million of value, right? If I take the same 600,000 and I divide that by 0.06, right, that's now like 100 million, right? Um, so the more that I do, the more that the lower I can push the cap rate, the more that income is worth because it's a higher class property. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
It does make sense.
You know, so if I can push that NOI down, the better.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. I think that math, I think that should have been think that should have been 6 million and 10 million. I said 160.
Okay.
I went 1 0 too many. So if I can improve the property and lower the cap rate, that means I'm going to get more value relative to how much income it makes. So I can
Okay.
have two properties across the street from each other. They're both coming in at the same exact NOI. But if one of them is a class A and the other one is a class C, that class A property is going to be more valuable. Therefore, I'm going to be able to sell it for more money or
Okay.
refi it and take out more money.
Okay. And so you went through the classes, you did A, B, and C, but I also heard you mention D. So can you help us understand what like a D class property is?
Oh, a D class property is going to be a bad property. That's
Okay.
going to be a bad, that's going to be a property that has big time vacancy. It's definitely going to be under market. It's probably got deferred maintenance issues, so it's going to need a lot of work.
Okay.
To get now a C property may have some deferred maintenance as well, but it's not like falling over.
Got you.
You know what I mean? It's just not, the greatest. It's not like the cleanest building.
Yeah.
There's a parking lot, but it's cracked. The gate might be broken,
Okay.
that kind of thing. You go to a Class A building, you're going to have like an electronic key card. You're going to just flash it and it'll let you in, and it's safe and it's secure and it's well lit and it's got 24-hour surveillance. You know what I'm
Pristine
saying?
class.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
If there, so of these like 4 classes, like if somebody wants to get involved, they want to get invested, or like Malcolm, what should I do? Would you recommend they start with a certain class? Like, does it depend on their criteria, their money? Like, take us through that. Like,
Well,
I want
yeah,
to,
absolutely.
what should I do?
It's gonna depend on where they are, right?
Okay.
So if I have let's start at the bottom. I've got no experience, no money. Okay, so now what do I have to do? I need to partner with someone,
Mhm.
right? Well, how can I add value? I can add value by bird dogging the deal. Let me go out. We live in the age of the internet. It's 2023. Anyone can go out on the internet and find deals if they know where to look, right?
So
If one
what's
doesn't know where to look,
can you help us
right?
understand bird dogging?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Mhm.
If they don't know, if they have to find a deal, right?
Okay.
And you go to and I won't get into like how do you find deals. I mean, there's a ton of
Right.
YouTube videos for that, right? And here's the thing: everything you want to know how to do, right? There's a YouTube video for that,
Mhm.
right? And so there's a ton of investors say, hey, here's how I find property. Okay, do that stuff. Find a property, then you find a partner. You can go to a real estate meetup. You can, network with other investors, and people will say, hey, I want 10 unit, 20 unit deals. I'm looking for deals. I'm an investor. Someone else will say, hey, I have a 10 unit, 20 unit deal. I'm looking for buyers. And then those folks hook up, right? If you find the deal and you priced it out, you've done your research, you've looked at the area, and you say, you know what, this has a lot of potential to get moved up in value. We can make a lot of money on this deal. Now you find a partner that wants to buy a deal and says, listen, you bring the money and the experience, I'm bringing the deal, right? And for a certain percentage of ownership, let's partner up. Will it be 50-50, 60-40? So that's between you and the person to negotiate. But the point is you get started
Mhm.
and now you're in a deal. If I've got 10 rental homes, okay, I got to start. There are some lenders that we can get you a loan on a multifamily if you have some single family. And when I say get you a loan, I'm talking about without a partner, like in your own name.
Mhm.
Okay. So if you got 10 rental homes, that's like 10 units, Jerome. They're just not in one building, right? They're spread out,
Yeah.
right? But you've been managing property. You've been collecting rents. You've been keeping happy tenants. You've been getting leases signed and renewed and all that fun stuff. You've been in the business. Okay. So we can get you started with a multifamily by yourself if you have enough single family already on your portfolio. Now, man, I'm going to need some money down. Well, hopefully you got equity in those houses,
Mhm.
right? I had a deal where I had a buyer last year. He cashed out of, I want to say, 9 houses. And I say cashed out. He did a cash out refinance and took out maximum equity. Okay, kept the houses, didn't sell them, just max refied them, got a lump sum about $300,000, right? Between
Mhm.
those, which is not a ton of money, but it's enough. And out of that 300,000, literally, and this is where God works his mysterious ways, right? The guy took the money out, did not have a deal, but he had the money. And within 45 days, a great deal popped up. And he was prepared, right? 2 partners were breaking up. That one of them was going through a divorce or was about to go through a divorce. And the other partner was like, listen, I don't want to be partners with your wife. And I don't want her winning your half of the property in a divorce settlement. So we need to break up our partnership. It was good while it lasted. Okay. But we got to sell this fast before the lawyers get involved. Right. So this guy showed up with the money And because of the speed of our bridge loan investor strategy, he was able to close at like a 15% discount to value. Because for some sellers, speed is more important than money. Time is more important than money, right? We know in real estate, time kills deals. The longer it takes to get stuff done, the more problems can pop up, and sometimes deals die on the vine, right? But there's some people, if you can close fast, they'd be willing to, oh yeah, I'll give you a discount if you can go quick, right? So we closed relatively quickly. He got that deal at the discount, and now he's got opportunity to go in there. I think that property was maybe, I want to say it was a 10 unit. It was a small multifamily. It was his first one. And I think the occupancy was like 60%, and the rents were probably about 30% discounted to market. So he had really good upside potential with that property, and he systematically went about working it, getting rid of some bad tenants, getting some new ones in, and doing, what he had to do.
Got it. Makes sense. If you had to pick a class, right, where you currently are right now, what class would you say is like you appreciate and you like most? A, B, C, or D? This doesn't matter.
Well,
like for you.
I'll share you something I was sharing with another investor the other day.
Mhm.
Grant Cardone likes to buy properties 200 units or more, right?
Okay.
And he ran into a problem. That was he found himself competing with REITs and billion-dollar funds. And he's like, I can't beat them on price because they're willing to bid up much higher than me, right? And they're willing to work on a smaller margin than I can. So, man, I'm losing deals to these guys in the marketplace, right? And then one day he said, you know what? But then it occurred to me, I need to get smart. He started buying Class B properties that he could very quickly turn around and get them to Class A so that the REITs that he was competing against would then turn around and now overpay for his properties.
Nice.
Right. So it's like, okay, that's that saying, you can't beat them, join them, right? It was like, well, no, if I can't beat them, let me sell to them.
Yeah.
Right. And so the next step under that would be, okay, what properties would Grant Cardone not touch? But maybe I can move them from
C to
D
B.
to B or C to B, and now it's attractive to those guys.
Got it.
You see what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
now where you can find less competition is obviously in the smaller deals,
Okay.
right? And even I see this in the marketplace. A lot of investors, they're trying to do syndication. They're trying to do bigger deals, right? What that means, they're leaving the smaller deals. Okay. I say smaller, I'm talking, less than 100 units, 10, 20, 40, 50 units. There's not as much competition for those deals are the big ones.
Okay.
Right.
And real quick, tell us what syndication is.
Syndication is where instead of me coming to the table with my money, I raise money and bring in a bunch of limited partners. Okay. And those limited partners are going to be investing into the project. So it might be like a $10 million project. Okay. And we need to put, the cost of acquisition might be $3 million, let's say, or $2 million, whatever it is. And I'm going to raise all that capital with all these other investors and put a fund together. And then the fund and the limited partnership is buying the property. Okay. Well, it does. And you, as someone who's putting the deal together, can come in and say, hey, I want a finder's fee for putting the whole deal together, for finding it, pricing it. I'm going to manage it as a general partner later on, and I'm going to make the whole thing happen. All you guys have to do is put your money to it and start, and you'll make money. You don't have to do any work. You don't have to spend any time, right? Because again, for some people, time is more valuable than money. So if you're willing to do the work and put the time in, and all they have to do is apply capital and then earn a return on that capital, they're totally okay with it. Right? The thing about syndication though is you've got this syndicate you put together, you don't own that deal by yourself. Right? You have to pay those returns out to all of those investors that are part of the deal, right? If I can do a deal and keep 100% of the deal, keep 100% of the upside, right? There's some folks are going to find that attractive.
Got it. Makes
right?
sense.
Now syndication has its place too. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not poo-pooing syndication. I'm just saying it's a different way to go. Because for some people, the reason they'll go that route is because I'll own 10% of a $10 million deal. Right? But I don't have $1 million myself. You see what I'm saying? They're creating their equity in the deal through the work and through bringing the whole thing, together. But again, you're always responsible to these other investors. So nothing's perfect. You have to look at the pros and cons of that form of ownership. And for all your listeners out there, again, there is a ton of videos on YouTube, on Google. There's a ton of folks that have courses on how does syndication work, and all the ups and downs of that.
Okay, so you just published a book, right? That's one of the reasons why I reach out to you. I'm really huge on books, like putting our information out there. Do you happen to have a copy nearby?
Like right here?
Yeah, perfect. Tell us why that title, right? Like, there's got to be a reason why you picked that title. So tell us what the title is, and then tell us why you picked the title, and then I want to talk about the book a little bit.
Well, starting a firm from scratch is a tough business, for anybody, right? And early on, we were not, the market's first choice for lending, right? My competition is not Chase Bank or Bank of America or Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, right? My competition is whatever source of funding that investor used before they caught on their last deal. Because we're human beings, we're all creatures of habit, right? So we do what's comfortable.
Okay.
This got me a deal, so I'm going to do that, and the next deal I'm going to do the same thing and so people will come back and say, well, hey, have you tried this? And they're like, I didn't even know that was available. Well, it's because they kept doing the same, because it kept working. And so from their perspective, this is how stuff gets done. But everyone only knows their own lived experience, right? So one of the advantages of a book like mine is there's a lot of case studies in there where you can see what other investors have done to put deals together and go, oh, I didn't know you could do that, or I hadn't thought about doing it that way, And so depending on the problem that you're trying to solve, and in real estate, especially commercial real estate, we make more money the bigger problems that we solve.
Okay.
Right? If there's no problems, like example, you have a property with no issues, well, I'm not going to make a lot of money on that. They're not going to sell it for cheap. There's not going to be a huge upside, and so it's just not the opportunity. Now, if there's a lot of problems to solve, there's a lot of opportunity to make a lot of money.
Got it.
And with me, I went to Amazon and I said, okay, we're doing a lot of commercial bridge loans, because commercial bridge loans are, in how they were intended to be used, they are a great problem solver when you cannot get bank financing.
Okay.
They've been a little bit, frankly, abused the last few years because they're so easy to get and they're so quick to get. A lot of people have used bridge loans to do deals they should have done conventional financing. Okay, but for my purposes, and for the marketplace, what they were designed for is properties that, again, are not bankable. So I went to Amazon and said, what's in the commercial real estate area, or just books in general on commercial bridge loans? There wasn't one. There wasn't one book. And so, and still today, July 25th, 2023, there's now one. There is now one book solely dedicated to commercial bridge lending and how it's used and what it should be used for, and how there's opportunities in the marketplace that you can now exploit now that you know how to best use this strategy. And that's
Okay.
why I wrote the book. And then, financing the unbankable deal as a title, it's just clear. It's just it's you know what that book is for, right? If you got a cherry deal, you don't need this book for that, right? Or you see it, you drive by a certain property, and you're like, man, somebody's got to figure out how to make money on that deal. And it's not bankable for various reasons. That's where you go buy my book, and you learn how to get that done.
All right. So you mentioned, I was going to ask you about your favorite deal and least favorite deal, but you mentioned inside of your book, you have case studies. So can you tell us about, I know you got two, right? So tell us about two of your favorite case studies in that book, or it can be outside of the book. So
I got a deal I did for a first time investor who they had a bunch of residential property, and they were getting a multifamily. They cashed out of, so I think it was it was an inheritance. They got an inheritance, and they paid for a small multifamily in Detroit. They paid cash, okay, but they needed a lot of money to fix it up. Okay, they had poured a lot of money into the property, over and above what they paid for it. And so, and let me give you some brass tacks numbers. They bought this property for $300,000. It was I want to say a 30 unit, 28 unit, somewhere around in there. Okay, they put another 300 grand into it. Okay, I come along. I forget how we even met, because they actually at the time didn't even live in Michigan. They were in New York, but all their real estate investments were in Detroit, because Detroit has a high value, high rent to value ratio. So in Detroit, you can buy a single family house for $50,000 and rent it out for $1,000 a month. And there's very, very few places in the country where that kind of math works, right? So she came here, she got this property. I come along, we look at what's the market potential, okay, and the property was worth 1.3 at the time. So she got it on her own from 300,000 to 1.3. I got her a non-recourse bridge loan for $800,000. 200,000 of it was cash out. The other 600,000 was renovation and construction budget, right? And she's almost done. We did this deal last year, and she's almost done. And our projections are this project is going to be worth 2.5, right? She'll refi out at 1.7. She'll get like another $900,000 when she does that, right? And then it'll be rinse and repeat. Let me go out and find another one and do this again. Now there was a lot of work involved to get that. The thing I was most proud of was a lot of people locally was like, "Oh, you're not going to get a loan for that. Nobody's going to do that deal." Because of the occupancy and the cash flow of the property, and it was her first commercial deal.
Got it.
And so another one, this is a different one. This was one where a client had bought a hotel, like one of these like Bates Motel type places. You like drive right up in front of the door type hotels, and she converted it to senior housing. And you know how small those rooms are, right? It's basically a bedroom and a bathroom, right? And then a closet. So what she did was that was their bedroom, and then the unit next door, she took the wall out between them at the back. That instead of a bathroom, she took the bathroom out, put a kitchenette where the bathroom was, and where the bed was, she made that like a sitting area. And then in the bedroom unit, she walled off that door. So you came in. So in other words, she cut the number of units in half, right?
Hmm.
Took those 2 small units, made them one larger one, but made it senior housing. And then she brought in a caterer to provide meals. Okay, they did 3 meals a day. She had a maid come in to provide maid service, and she charged $2,500 a month for a 432 square foot space.
Wow.
Phenomenal return on her investment.
Yeah.
Phenomenal return on her investment. That thing is
Wow.
cash flowing for like 40 going north, you know. And then, okay, now we're going to cash out. You've done that. And there was a like a clubhouse type building
Hmm.
on the property. And she's like, oh, I got to renovate that. I can get 3 more units in there, right? That's another, and they're going to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to get $8,000 a month, you know. And for the seniors who were there, they loved it. Their meals were taken care of. They had a maid that was handling the cleaning, right? She gave them basic cable. Seniors only watch like 8 channels anyway, so that was easy, right? She covered their utilities, but again, the units are like that big, so it's not a huge utility cost, right? And for
Yeah.
them, they had a fixed expense. The only expense they had to pay for relative to living was their cell phone.
Nice.
You know, and so what she found out was, and she just sort of fell into it, right? There's a big market of like city of Detroit employees, state of Michigan employees who have a pension, and between pension and social security, that's more than enough, right? But it's fixed. So it's a good income, but it's a fixed income. So for them, expenses drive them crazy. So here, they don't have to worry about the lights and the gas. Don't have to worry about, someone coming. And the adult children that were referring their parents to this place didn't have to worry about, well, is mom going to get checked on? Because there's a maid there coming in and doing laundry and even making the bed if need be and all that stuff. Her property was kept up because she had a maid. It was like one maid running the whole thing, you know. So she didn't have any issues of, oh my God, this person is destroying my apartment, or there's a bad smell, they're not keeping up. There was none of that. There was none of that. You know, and if there was a problem with a tenant, maybe one of the seniors was starting to get really forgetful and they actually needed to go into like an assisted living type
Hmm.
situation, they were the first to know about it. She would tell the adult children, like, hey, your mom's not keeping up with her medications. She's slipping. You might want to think of moving her here. And the kids appreciated it, So but she did all of that out of a failed hotel or
Got
motel,
it. Motel. Yeah,
right?
that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And we've all driven by one of those little rinky-dink failed motels that are, boarded up. Nobody's making money with those things. And somebody like that goes, well, let me do the math. I can get 20 units, $2,500 a unit per month. I can make money with that. The only thing she was confused about, the investor, was how come more people aren't doing it? And I told her, well, most people are lazy when it comes to their creativity.
Yeah, that was very creative. It's got me thinking.
You were creative and in commercial, there's a term, highest and best use, right?
Hmm.
This property, which is, let's say, an office building, like office, we all know offices are struggling right now, right? Because of COVID and everybody working at home. Well, I know some guys, they bought an office building that they got for a song from the Lutheran Association of Michigan, okay? And they converted it. They gutted the whole building, converted it to self-storage. And it's full. And the financials, this building was a 3-story building, and the financials were such, at the time I met them, they were turning a really good profit and only had 2 of the floors done. They still hadn't completed the 3rd floor yet, and they were already profitable just with the 2.
Wow.
And then what happens is, they get all these applications coming in for space, right? They get full, not even another one. And so
Yeah.
the place that they have on 8 Mile Road in Detroit, actually, it's in Oak Park, Michigan. It borders Detroit, and Wayne and Oakland County, two of the biggest counties in the state. They are the two biggest counties in the state. Well, they use, because of that prime location, they
Mhm.
use that location to market like crazy. And all those apps come in and they say, hey, we got another location over here on Coolidge. We got another location over here on this street, right? And now they said, okay, now that one's full. Okay. It's so, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes people just
Yeah.
sort of fall into a business model, but they're not looking for another self-storage. They're looking for another mostly vacant office building that they
Mhm.
could buy for a song and then go in and convert it, because self-storage is, they're nothing more than still boxes,
Yeah.
right?
Makes sense.
One light bulb, no carpet, you know, so it's relatively easy to do that kind of conversion. And once they got it down, now they know how to do it over and over and over and over again, you know.
Nice. Makes a lot of sense. So can you tell us again how we can, well, you haven't told us yet. Tell us how we can get a copy of your book.
Well, you can go to our website, financingtheunbankabledeal.com, and you can learn more about the value that the book can provide for an investor, and also for if someone's in the business and let's say they're a realtor, they're not an investor, but you know, a lot of realtors will run across the occasional commercial deal and don't know what to do with it,
Mhm.
right? And so the book can give that person some insight. Oh, you know what? You can actually take that listing. Here's how the buyers can finance it, because it always comes down to financing, you know, at the end of the day with commercial. And so if you can provide an avenue of financing for that commercial listing, now you got a way to say, okay, I can actually turn this thing and make a profit. You know,
Okay.
my firm is Castle Commercial Capital, and you can find us on the web. We have a YouTube channel. We're not hard to find.
Okay. Got it. So we're in real estate. We know what a closing table is. The closing table is a section on this show where we like try to wrap things up. So
Mhm.
for you, I have like a few questions. The first question is kind of a selfish question. I like to figure out how I can help my guests, right? So,
Right.
and I also like when people like to reach out to people, they try to reach out to them for free and pick their brain. But I want those people to come with the idea of providing value to the other person. So first question is, how can someone provide immediate value to you or your business?
Well, for us, it's about deals, right?
Okay.
And so, we're not looking to do 1,000 loans with 1,000 investors. We're looking to do 1,000 loans with 100 investors.
Okay.
Investors who understand how to get deals done. They're willing to take coaching, and I say coaching because as an investor, even if someone's, they've done like 20 deals, 30
Hmm.
deals, they just know those 30. We've worked with many investors on, almost every form of commercial property you can imagine we finance, right? And so we can give them some ideas on what's best practices in the marketplace,
Okay.
so they can be a more efficient and a more profitable investor. And all of your listeners, if they go to our website, financingtheunbankabledeal.com, at the bottom, there's a link where they can set up a free 30-minute consultation.
Okay.
And I'd be more than happy to either talk to them about a prospective deal that they have, a deal that they're currently working on, or just strategize generally about where can I go? How do I get into this type of business? If I want to go into self storage, if I want to go into multifamily, multifamily is the easiest for a new investor to get into with no
Okay.
experience by far.
Um, how can someone provide long-term value to you or your business?
Well, for us, it's a matter of them doing many deals and helping us take their advice when it's time to get out of the bridge loan and they get into something like conventional, like a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac. We do those too, so it's not like we can only do the hard deals. we can do the easy ones as well. If someone has a recommendation for like a great podcast like yours, where we could talk to more people about what we do, that's an awesome way to add value for us.
Okay. What are 3 books you recommend to the audience and why?
Ooh, that's a toughie. It's because there's so
How
many
about
really, really good ones.
one of them yours?
Well, let me give you one.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, my book, Financing a Bankable Deal, but one book I love, $100 Million Offers,
Okay.
by Alex Ramarzi. That's a great one, right? You
That
got
one
that
right
one?
here.
Yep, great book, great book. The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone.
Okay.
That's another really, really good book. One of my favorite business books. Um, and there's a new one I'm reading. 10X is better than 2X
And I got that one.
with Dan Kennedy. Yes, easier. I said better, easier. Dan Sullivan. Dan Sullivan.
Yeah.
Great book. Great book. And so those three, because no matter what business you're in, right, at the end of the day, it comes down to how do I manage my leads? How do I convert sales? Right? Do I have a premium offer, so that people don't leave me? Right? And do I have a recurring offer so that people stay with me and come back to me over and over and over again? You know, and if I can, like example, double my lead flow, double my conversions of sales of those leads, right? Come out with a premium offer, increase my bottom line by another 20% by having that premium offer available, and then have recurring on the back end, you can triple your business. You know, there's a book called Boss Moves by Myron Golden. Great guy, awesome guy. Love that book. A lot of the same concepts that are in $100 Million Offers are also in his book, Boss Moves, and he focuses on maximizing those 4 moves, in your business. And so, highly recommend that book as well.
Okay. What's one question you wish I had asked you, and how would you have answered?
Wow, that's a great question. Um, One question that you would ask me, I wish you had answered. You asked some really great questions, man. I don't know if I got one. I don't know if I got one. I'll say this. One thing I'm glad you didn't ask me, right?
Okay.
Uh, you didn't whine and complain about the market, you know, and how hard things are. I appreciate that because that's a fallacy.
Hmm.
And I'm glad I didn't have to waste any time debunking it. You know, are rates higher? Yes. When I met my wife 30 years ago, we've been married. We just had our anniversary a couple of weeks ago, 26 years, right? In 1989, when we met, interest rates were 9.75%. And the company that we worked for as a was real estate one, it was real estate brokerage, had a record year. It was the
Hmm.
first time in the history of Michigan a real estate company has sold $1 billion in real estate in 1 year. And that was in a 9.75% environment. So we were selling real estate like crazy. And at that meeting, they weren't like, oh my God, rates are so high. They were like, let's go to 2 billion. Let's go kill it. So our rates higher, yes. Are some properties overpriced? Of course, right? Blue ocean. Find where blue ocean deals are, deals that not everyone's fighting over, everyone's not competing over. Where can I get off market deals that are not picked over, where you have time to negotiate with a seller, to build a relationship, to try to work an agreed deal out, you know. And then from my perspective, with unbankable deals, those deals are blue ocean deals because they got issues. They're solvable, but they got issues. So you can't ask top dollar when you got challenges.
Hmm.
You You know what I'm saying? So, it's sort of like, people who they'll work with someone when they're broke, busted, and disgusted, right? And then later they become a multimillionaire, right? And there's women like, man, I should get with the guy. No, you can't do it. His wife got him, like, right? Because
Mhm.
he was there when no one else was.
Yeah.
She had a value add deal. Right? So she invested in him. She
Yeah, she took
supported
it
him.
from D to B or D to A, right? It's a
Exactly.
big deal.
Exactly. The Rock, his production company is called $7 Productions. All his movies, all his various business ventures falls under $7, right? And the reason it's called $7 because there was a time when he got cut from the Stampeders in the CFL, and his dad picked him up from the airport. It was driving. His dad was like, "What you gonna do next?" He's like, "I don't know." He reached in his pocket, and all he had was $7. That's all he had to his name, right? Now the guy's got what 200 million Instagram followers. His tequila deal, Terramana, by itself is worth $500,000.
Nice.
That a lot of people don't even know that he's got his own brand of tequila, right?
Yeah.
But his tequila deal is ridiculous. Plus, all the other things, that he has, and so his family that stuck with him, that supported him, that been on at the beginning, everyone's reaping the benefits of that.
Okay. Thank you, Malcolm. Where can listeners find out more about you online?
Well, they can go to financingtheunbankabledeal.com. They can also visit our direct lending site, which is Castle Commercial Capital .com. We're on YouTube, so you can take Castle Commercial Capital, search on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. We're on Facebook. I don't do anything with Instagram.
Okay.
I can't be everywhere. Right. But no, we're out there, and we can easily, and if they go and have take advantage of that consultation, they'll get good value out of it.
Okay. Malcolm, this has been excellent. I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. I want you to sit here while we close up. So I'm going to play your
Thanks, Jerome.
then. Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right.